Hello students, in today's lecture we are going to learn about waves. In this lecture we will cover NCERT section 14.5 and we will also solve an example 14.4. This is our disclaimer. Learning objective. By the end of this lecture you will be able to understand the concept of principle of superposition. So the topics what we are going to cover in this lecture are: first, we will solve an example 14.4. Then we will learn 14.5, the principle of superposition of waves. Example 14.4. Estimate the speed of sound in air at standard temperature and pressure. The mass of 1 mole of air is 29.0 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 kg. Alright. So in this question you have to find out the speed of sound in air at standard temperature and pressure. Alright. Now let's solve this example. First, let's see what is given in this question. Here we see that the mass of 1 mole of air is given as m equal to 29.0 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 kg. Remember, a mole is a standard quantity in physics, represented Avogadro's number of particles. Now let's list some other known values that are standard for these types of problems. These include pressure, temperature, volume and the specific heat ratio for air. So at standard temperature pressure, P equal to 1.01 into 10 raised to the power 5 pascals. And the temperature T equal to 273 Kelvin. Remember, Kelvin is the SI unit for temperature and 273 Kelvin is equivalent to 0 degree Celsius. 1 mole of any ideal gas occupies 22.4 liters at STP, which is the same as 22.4 into 10 to the power of minus 3 cubic meters. For air, which is mostly diatomic molecules like nitrogen and oxygen, the ratio of specific heats gamma is 1.4. Gamma is the ratio of the specific heat at constant pressure to the specific heat at constant volume, and it affects the speed of sound in gases. Alright. Now let's focus on finding the density of air at STP, standard temperature pressure. Density is simply mass divided by volume. Here we will use the mass of 1 mole of air and the volume that 1 mole occupies at STP to calculate it. So the density rho is given by mass of 1 mole of air divided by volume of 1 mole of air at STP. Now let's substitute the actual numbers. The mass of 1 mole of air is 29.0 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 kg and the volume at STP is 22.4 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 meter cube. So plugging these values into our formula will give us the density in the correct units. After calculating, we find that the density of air at STP is 1.29 kilogram per cubic meter. This value is typical for air under standard conditions. We will use this density to estimate the speed of sound. Alright, so now uh, let's recall Newton's formula for the speed of sound in a medium. The formula is V equals the square root of P divided by rho, where V is the speed of sound, P is the pressure of the medium in pascals, alright, and rho is the density in kilograms per cubic meter. This equation tells us that the speed of sound depends on both the pressure and the density of the medium. Now let's substitute the standard values for air at standard temperature and pressure. The pressure P is 1.01 into 10 raised to the power 5 Pascal, and the density rho is equal to 1.29 kilogram per cubic meter. So plugging these values into our formula, we get V equal to under root 1.01 into 10 raised to the power 5 Pascal divided by 1.29 kilogram per meter cube. So when we carry out the division inside the square root, we get 7.829 into 10 raised to the power 4. So taking the square root of 7.829 into 10 raised to the power 4 gives us approximately 2.79 into 10 raised to the power 2, or about 280 meter per second. This is a typical value for the speed of sound in air at room temperature and standard pressure. Remember, if the temperature or pressure changes, clear, the speed of sound will also change. So we can say that the speed of sound depends on temperature and pressure. Alright. Now we see that our calculated speed of sound in air is about 280 meter per second, which is 15% smaller than the actual experimental value of 331 meter per second. This difference tells us that our initial calculation is missing something important. So let's think about why our theoretical value does not match the real world measurement. So Newton originally assumed that as sound waves travel through air, the changes in pressure happen isothermally, meaning the temperature stays constant during compression and rarefaction. This is a key assumption in his model, but as we will see, it does not fully match what happens in reality. So it was pointed out by Laplace that the pressure variations in the propagation of sound waves through a medium is adiabatic, not isothermal. Adiabatic uh, means that is the process no heat exchange occurs. It means the exchange of heat delta Q equal to 0. With Laplace correction, the formula for the speed of sound in a medium becomes V equal to square root of gamma times P divided by rho. Here V is the speed of sound, gamma is the ratio of specific heats, about 1.4 for air. P is the pressure, and rho is the density. Increasing gamma or pressure increases the speed, while increasing density decreases it. This formula matches experimental results much better. Now, uh, Laplace formula is V equal to under root gamma P divided by rho. So let's substitute the values for air at standard conditions. Gamma is 1.4 for air. Pressure P is 1.01 into 10 raised to the power 5 Pascal. Rho is equal to 1.29 kilogram per meter cube. So now plugging these numbers into the formula, we get V equal to square root of 1.4 into 1.01 into 10 raised to the power 5 Pascal divided by 1.29 kilogram per meter cube. So simplifying the numerator, 1.4 times 1.01 gives us about 1.414. So now we have V equal to square root of 1.414 times 10 to the power 5 divided by 1.29. Alright. Now let's solve for velocity of sound, which we represent as V. So the formula we are using is V equals the square root of 10.96 times 10 to the power of 4. So calculating the square root, we get V equals 3.310 times 10 to the power of 2. So V equal to 331 meter per second. This is the commonly accepted value for the speed of sound in air at standard temperature and pressure. Clear? Therefore, the speed of sound in air is 331 meter per second. This value of speed of sound is matching up with the experimental value. 14.5, the principle of superposition of waves. Now let's understand the principle of superposition in waves. This principle says that when two or more waves overlap in the same medium, the total displacement at any point is simply the sum of the displacements that each wave would cause on its own. In other words, uh, the waves add up algebraically at every point and instant. This is a fundamental idea in physics, specifically when studying how waves interact, like sound waves in air or ripples on water. Now let's look at how we can express this principle mathematically. We will use equations to describe the displacements caused by each wave. So suppose we have two waves with displacements y1 x of t and y2 x of t, where x is the position and t is the time. The figure here shows two waves overlapping, and you can see how their shapes combine. Remember, displacement tells us how far a point in the medium moves from its rest position due to the wave. So here we have two waveforms. First, y1 x of t, second y2 x of t. Alright. So according to principle of superposition, so when we combined these two waves, so y1 x of t plus y2 x of t form like this. Resultant displacement of y of xt is y1 x of t plus y2 x of t. their amplitude is increases after addition. All right. So this equation, this one is very important. 14.25. Now let's try to understand when and why we use the superposition principle in physics, specifically in the context of waves and oscillations. The superposition principle helps us understand what happens when two or more waves or pulses overlap in the same space. So, we use the superposition principle specifically when two or more pulses or waves overlap. This means that at certain points in space and time, the effects of multiple waves add together. It's important to recognize that this principle only applies when the waves are in the same medium and at the same location. So, here the superposition principle, uh, let's calculate the resulting wave when two or more waves overlap. In simple terms, we add the displacements of each wave at every point to get the total displacement. So let's look at the figure. Principle of superposition applied to two wave pulses. So it visually demonstrates the superposition principle with two wave pulses. So the two pulses are approaching each other from opposite directions. Alright, and their shapes and directions are clearly marked. So A t equal to 0 second, B t equal to 1 second, C t equal to 2 second, and D t equal to 3 second, and R t equal to 4 second. So if we talk uh, A, about A. So in this example, both pulses have equal but opposite displacements and are moving towards each other in opposite directions. Alright, when they overlap, their displacement will add up algebraically. Alright, so if one is positive and the other is negative but equal in size, they will cancel each other out at the point of overlap. Alright, so first here this wave moves forward and this one moves backward in this direction. Similarly, this one, as time passes, waves approaching to each other in opposite direction, and after some time they will uh, add up. All right, if one is positive and other is negative but equal in size, they will cancel each other out at the point of overlap. Now let's look at what happens at time t equal to 2 seconds. All right, in figure C, t equal to 2 seconds. So here two pulses completely overlap, first one and second one. The pulses are completely overlap and their displacements add up to 0. This is a great example of destructive interference. Alright, where the upward and downward movements cancel each other out. So in the figure, two pulses combine to form a flat line at that instant. Alright. So when two pulses overlap, the resulting displacement at any point is simply the algebraic sum of the individual displacements. Alright, at that point. This means we add the values together taking into account their direction. So if one is positive and the other is negative, they can cancel each other out. This rule applies to all types of waves, whether they are on a string, in the water, or even sound waves. This effect is called the principle of superposition of waves. It's a fundamental idea in physics that helps us predict how waves interact. Remember, superposition explains both constructive interference, where waves add up, and destructive interference, where they cancel each other. Alright, now uh, if we have more than two waves moving in the medium, the resulting waveform is the sum of wave functions of individual waves. This means we just add up the displacement caused by each wave at every point. So let's look at how we represent these individual waves mathematically. So suppose we have several waves, each with its own wave function. So for the first wave, we write its displacement as y1 is equal to f1 x minus vt for first particle. Alright, the function f1 describes the shape of the wave. Similarly, for the second wave, the displacement is y2 is equal to f2 x minus vt. Here y2 is the displacement due to the second wave and f2 describes its shape. Both waves are moving with the same velocity v, but their shapes can be different. So we can extend this idea to any number of waves. For the nth wave, the displacement is yn is equal to fn x minus vt. So the total displacement at any point is the sum y1 plus y2 plus yn. Alright. So this is the essence of the superposition principle for multiple waves. Now, resulting wave function describing the multiple disturbance in the medium is y equal to f1 x minus vt plus f2 x minus vt plus fn x minus vt. So in this equation, y is the total displacement at position x and time t. V is the speed of the waves, and each f1, f2 up to fn represents the shape of each individual wave. All the waves are moving with the same speed v, and we are simply adding their effects together. So we can write this more compactly using the summation symbol. So y equal to summation I equal to 1 to n fi x minus vt. It means that if you have n different waves, you just add up their individual displacements at each point to get the total displacement. It's important to note that the superposition principle only works for linear differential equations, which describe small amplitude waves. That means the waves must be gentle enough that their effects simply add together. So for large amplitude waves, that is shock waves, the principle does not hold. In those cases, the waves interact in more complicated ways and we can't just add their effects. Now, uh, let's look at some real world examples where the superposition of waves is important. Many different effects in physics, specifically in sound and light, are based on this principle. So first, let's talk about interference. Interference happens when two waves with the same frequency overlap. Depending on how their peaks and troughs line up. They can add together to make a bigger wave or cancel each other out. Next, we have beats. Beats occur when two waves with slightly different frequency combine. The result is a sound that seems to get louder and softer in a regular pattern. For instance, if you play two tuning forks that are close in pitch, you will hear a pulsing effect. And the beat frequency is simply the difference between the two frequencies. And last, standing waves. These form when a wave and its reflection overlap, such as on a guitar string or in an organ pipe. The superposition creates points that appear to stand still, called notes, and points that vibrate the most, called antinodes. Alright, now let's consider two sinusoidal waves. Sinusoidal means the waves have a smooth, repetitive oscillation like a sine or cosine function. So first, let's make things simple by assuming both waves have the same amplitude, which we call small a, the same angular frequency, which is omega, and the same wave number k. Amplitude small a tells us how far the wave moves from its central position. Angular frequency omega is how fast the wave oscillates, and the wave number k relates to the wavelength. Now, even though the waves have the same amplitude, frequency, and wave number, they can still be out of sync with each other. This difference is called the phase difference, represented by phi. The phase difference tells us how much one wave is shifted compared to the other, and it's measured in radians. So, equation for displacement of the first wave, we have y1 of xt is equal to a sine kx minus omega t. Here y1 is the displacement at position x and time t. This equation shows a wave moving in the position x direction with amplitude a, wave number k, and angular frequency omega. For the second wave, the displacement is y2 x of t is equal to a sine kx minus omega t plus phi. This is almost the same as the first wave, but we have added the phase difference phi. This means the second wave is shifted compared to the first. Now, the resultant displacement as per superposition principle, y of xt is equal to y1 plus y2. This means if two waves pass through the same point, their effects just add together. So here we see a specific example where both waves have the same amplitude, a small a, but one has a phase difference phi compared to the other. The equation y of xt is equal to a into sine kx minus omega t plus sine kx minus omega t plus phi. In this formula, a is the amplitude, k is the wave number, omega is the angular frequency, and phi is the phase difference. So to simplify the sum of these two sine functions, we use a trigonometric identity. Sine a plus sine b is equal to 2 into sine a plus b divided by 2 cos a minus b divided by 2. This identity helps us rewrite the sum as a single sine function multiplied by a cosine factor. Applying the identity, we get the resultant displacement as y of xt is equal to a into 2 sine kx minus omega t plus kx minus omega t plus phi divided by 2 into cos phi by 2. So, rearranging the terms, y of xt is equal to 2a cos phi by 2 into sine kx minus omega t plus phi by 2. So we could observe that resulting wave has the same frequency and the wavelength as the original waves, but its amplitude a of phi is equal to 2a cos phi by 2. This means the amplitude depends on the cosine of half of the phase difference. Now let's look at the condition for constructive interference when two waves overlap. Constructive interference happens when the amplitude, which is the height of the wave, becomes as large as possible. In other words, the waves add up to make a maximum effect. So, according to the superposition principle, the amplitude of the combined wave is given by A of phi is equal to 2a cos phi by 2. Alright. The cosine function tells us how the phase difference affects the total amplitude. The amplitude A of phi will be at its maximum value when cos phi by 2 equals plus minus 1. This means the two waves are perfectly aligned in a certain way. Remember, cosine of 0 degrees or 180 degrees is pulse plus or minus 1. It means phi should be 0, 2 pi, 4 pi and 2n pi. N is an integer. This means the wave are in a phase or their peaks and troughs line up perfectly, leading to constructive interference. So for phi equal to 0, when the waves are in phase, resultant wave equation y of xt is equal to 2a cos phi by 2 sin kx minus omega t plus phi by 2 becomes y of xt is equal to 2a sin kx minus omega t. Remember, this principle is used in many real life applications like noise cancelling, headphones and musical instruments. Now, when two waves are in same phase or phi equal to 0, uh, their crests and troughs align, leading to constructive interference. In other words, the combined effect is stronger than either wave alone. So, as a result of this perfect alignment, the amplitude of the resulting wave is simply the sum of amplitudes of the individual waves. The important term here is sum of amplitudes of the individual waves. So you can see this clearly in the figure 14.10a, where the two waves overlap. The new wave is taller than either original wave. Alright. Now, when constructive interference happens, the resulting wave has the maximum possible amplitude. If each original wave has amplitude A, then the combined amplitude becomes 2A. Remember, amplitude is the height of the wave from its center line. So, intensity is directly proportional to A square. Importantly, intensity is proportional to the square of the amplitude. So, if amplitude increases, intensity increases even more. So, if the amplitude doubles to 2a, the intensity becomes proportional to 2a squared, which is 4a squared. This means the intensity is 4 times greater than for a single wave. The key takeaway is that constructive interference does not just add the amplitude, it multiplies the intensity by 4. Now, destructive interference happens when two amplitude of the resulting wave is at its minimum. In other words, the waves are combining in such a way that they cancel each other as much as possible. This is the opposite of constructive interference, where the amplitudes add up to make a bigger wave. So, the amplitude of the resultant wave when two waves of the same amplitude A superposed is given by the formula A of phi is equal to 2A cos phi by 2. A of phi will be minimum when cos phi by 2 is equal to 0. So it means phi should be pi, 3 pi, 5 pi or 2n plus 1 pi. N is an integer. Alright. So for phi equal to pi, waves are completely out of phase as shown in the figure. Alright. You can see this in the figure where the peaks of the one wave line up with the troughs of the other, resulting in complete cancellation. This is a classic case of destructive interference as shown in the figure 14.10b. Now, substituting phi equal to pi in resultant wave equation using superposition principle, y of xt is equal to 2a cos phi by 2 sin kx minus omega t plus phi by 2. So y of xt is equal to 2a cos pi by 2 sin kx minus omega t plus pi by 2. So since cos pi by 2 equal to 0, we get resultant displacement for destructive interference. So y of xt equal to 0. Minimum resultant amplitude is A minimum equal to 0. Amplitude is maximum displacement from the mean position. So if the wave is always at 0, the amplitude must be 0 as well. Remember, intensity of a wave is proportional to the square of its amplitude. I is proportional to A squared. So if the amplitude is 0, the intensity must also be 0. This means no energy is being transferred at the points of perfect destructive interference. So minimum intensity is 0. This is the lowest possible value for intensity, confirming that at points of complete destructive interference, there is no wave energy present. This wraps up our look at destructive interference. Let's remember that when two waves are exactly out of phase, they can cancel each other completely. Alright, let's summarize what we cover in this lecture. Newton's formula for assuming isothermal pressure variation for speeds of sound in air V equal to under root P by rho. Newton's formula gives a value about 15% lower than experimental results. Laplace corrected the formula for speed of sound in air by showing the variations are actually adiabatic. Laplace's corrected formula V equal to under root gamma P divided by rho, where gamma is the ratio of specific heats, P upon Cv. The principle of superposition states that when two or more waves overlap in a medium, the resultant displacement at any point is the algebraic sum of individual wave displacements. Mathematically, y of xt is equal to y1 x of t plus y2 x of t for two waves. Superposition principle gives resultant wave for two harmonic waves with same frequency omega, wavelength lambda and amplitude a, but different phase phi. Resultant wave has amplitude A of phi is equal to 2A cos phi by 2, which depends on their phase difference. Constructive interference occurs when waves are in phase phi equal to 0, giving maximum amplitude 2A. Destructive interference occurs when waves are completely out of phase phi equal to pi, resulting in 0 amplitude. Now we have some practice questions. First, a longitudinal wave is traveling through air with a frequency of 440 Hz. If the speed of sound in air is 340 meter per second, calculate the wavelength. Second, at STP, a gas has density rho equal to 1.5 kg per meter cube and pressure P equal to 1.01 into 10 raised to power 5 Pascal. If the ratio of specific heats gamma equal to 1.4, calculate the speed of sound in this gas. Two waves are described by the equations y1 is equal to 3 sin kx minus omega t and y2 equal to 3 sine kx minus omega t plus pi by 3. What is the amplitude of the resultant wave? A sound wave has a speed of 330 meter per second in air at 0 degree Celsius. If the temperature increases to 30 degrees Celsius, calculate the new speed of sound. Two identical waves with amplitude A equal to 2 cm are traveling in the same direction. If they have a phase difference of phi equal to pi by 2, calculate the amplitude of the resultant wave. Alright, so these are the practice questions. Thank you for your attention. I hope this lesson was helpful.